101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, or you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. Now, let me just ask you something. We got a guy running for Secretary of State of the state of Arkansas named Brian Norris. And he agrees with President Trump that we need to get rid of the voting machines. And he's in a runoff. The early voting for the runoff is going on right now. Election day is this coming Tuesday. And his opponent is a guy in the state Senate who said, oh, no, the voting machines are just fine. Sure, we can all read barcodes, right? Who cares? An out-of-state company owns it, and we're not allowed to know who owns the company. And so you got all these people in the state legislature who knew Kim Hammer was running for Secretary of State 15 months ago, all of a sudden endorsing him, saying, hey, no, wait a minute. He's a strong conservative, and we are dyed-in-the-wool conservatives ourselves. So you got to trust us. And they're lying, saying all kinds of stuff about Brian Norris. I think if we actually had actual conservatives in the Arkansas State House, the Arkansas State Senate, somebody will be trying to do what Florida is doing right now. Now, young Tommy, do we have that audio clip? Florida drops a hammer on illegals. Yeah, let's roll that one, and then we'll ask ourselves, why is this not being done in Arkansas?
So our legislation will ban illegal aliens from benefiting from any down payment assistance programs or silent second home mortgages, whether it is done by a government agency, a quasi-government agency, or an NGO. Because some of these nonprofits will go out and they will create these programs specifically to go out and target illegal immigrants for down payment so they can purchase homes. So we believe that's important to be on the books because you never know what the future of the state of Florida is going to look like. I'd rather have it on the books than try to pass a law later if for some reason we do not have sensible, common sense people in control of the state. It will prohibit illegal aliens from receiving any license issued by the Department of Financial Services. One of the things that we need to do as a state is we need to make sure that when we are issuing licenses, that we need to check to make sure that they are in the country legally. But almost as important is to make sure that we can revoke any license that has been issued when they had legal status.
Now, I wish I could give credit to the speaker there, who's a member of the Florida State Legislature. I couldn't find out his name. But doesn't that sound like actual conservatism? And why don't we hear anything like that from any of the Republicans in the state legislature? Now, hey, if I miss somebody, call me, tell me who, 501-401-1011, and I'll stand corrected. But Kim Hammer is the guy that proposed the bill a while back to give immigrants precedence over native Arkansans and getting CDLs, driving the big rigs. So you tell me all you want how conservative this guy is. He's the guy that tried to make it harder for citizens to get ballot initiatives on the ballot. So what if you wanted to completely outlaw all abortions, including making it illegal to send off for the abortion pill in the mail, and you wanted to have pretty strict penalties on that? You want to go out there and get petitions signed to put that on the ballot in Arkansas. Kim Hammer made it more difficult to do that. And yet the people who are trying to get him over the finish line are telling you Brian Norris is not pro-life. I don't know if you're aware of this, but people will lie to you sometimes. Anyway, if there were actually conservatives in our state legislature who wanted to protect us from the illegals, who wanted to make it very difficult, inhospitable for illegals to remain here, how come nobody, and I mean nobody, in the Arkansas state legislature is trying to do what they're doing over there in Florida? Why is that? I think you know why. If they were actually, as Trump supporters call it, MAGA, then how come they're fighting the president so hard on these voting machines? Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. All right, I just had to get that off my chest. So there's a lot going on. Pam Bondi was on Fox and Friends this morning, and we got a couple of cuts from that. First of all, we got her discussing Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Maduro, of course, was the dictator of Venezuela before we absconded with him a couple of months ago. It's pretty sweet the way they worked it. Bondi discusses Maduro on Fox and Friends.
Pending case, so I can't say a lot about it. What I can say, of course, is he is charged with being a narco-terrorist, and his wife is just as bad, if not worse. Remember, she was Hugo Chavez's lawyer. Maduro was his bus driver. Mm-hmm. They're horrible. I feel they're convicted of, should be convicted of many, many crimes involving drugs, guns. And I can say New York is not the only jurisdiction that we're looking at.
Are you looking for other Venezuelan officials? Because you've indicted more of them even before you guys got there, including the defense minister who was just dismissed. Are you going to go grab some more?
Yeah, Brian, I can't talk about that. But yes, we have many unindicted co-conspirators, not only in New York, but we're looking at other jurisdictions as well. But I can't discuss Cuba either. But you know, President Trump is looking at all this. This is about keeping our world safe, and that's what he is committed to doing.
That is what he's committed to doing. Drive some people crazy. I got people on Facebook, people supposed to be conservatives. Well, what threat to us is Iran? I'm like, well, they lied. They can shoot missiles 2,500 miles. That's how they got to Diego Garcia. Yeah, we're 7,000 miles away. Why not just wait until they have missiles and nukes? I'm like, are you hearing yourself right now? Why not just wait? Oh, so you don't have kids and grandkids then? I mean, goodness sakes. And I use that term advisedly. That's how we talk here in the South. Goodness sakes. What are you? I mean, really? I'm not the biggest fan of Pam Bondi in the world, but, you know, when she says something makes sense, she says something that makes sense. All right, so Pam Bondi in this next clip says something twice because she's trying to get somebody on Fox and Friends to ask her about it, and they're ignoring what she's saying. And it's frustrating for the home viewer if you're actually paying attention, because you will see evidence here that Brian Kilmeade is not paying attention. So I guess he's doing his best Sean Hannity impersonation. Because Hannity can have a guest on, just drops a bombshell. And his response would be something like, okay, but let me ask you about this. Completely ignore the bombshell. You're about to hear Brian Kilmeade do that on Fox and Friends. Bondi tells Fox and Friends.
Are there more of these people that were naturalized citizens? They're going to be denaturalized.
There are a lot of them. And just to put it in perspective, under the 4 years when President Biden was in office, he moved to denaturalize 24 people. 4 years. Under President Trump, already 22 within a year. And these are bad people. They were sent to prison under Trump 45. Bad people, arms smuggling, millions of dollars of healthcare fraud. We're looking at another one right now. We're going after them constantly. Then under they get out, they serve their sentences. He lets these criminals, he let them stay in our country. No longer under Donald Trump. We're going to have a safe country. We're going to have an honest country. And we're moving to denaturalize them as fast as we can and get them out of our country.
Exactly. As it should be. Phil Murphy, Democrat senator from New Jersey the other day. Phil Murphy said the people we care about the most, talking about Democrats now, is the illegal aliens. He said the quiet part out loud, knowing that he will never be held accountable for that. Oh, I apologize. Phil Murphy was governor of New Jersey. My mistake. Anyway, because A, few Democrats who do pay attention agree with him, and B, most of the Democrats who don't pay attention just vote for somebody with a D by their name. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going on. We've got a lot more to talk about as the Doc Washburn show continues. More coming up straight ahead. Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back 501-401-1011. Sometimes things just stick in my craw, man. Marco Rubio. That would be like the sixth cut on the email. Marco Rubio goes off on reporter about Cuba. Can we play that one? Excellent. Go for it.
There seems to be a sense that perhaps President Trump would be happy with a win, which would only entail an economic deal.
So you said there's a sense. Where do you get that sense from?
Well, there's a lot of reporting that
There's a lot of fake. All right, any reporting on Cuba that you didn't get from me or the president is a liar. Because they're the only people working on it.
Do you still want regime change?
I'm just warning you guys. All these sources that are pitching you on Cuba don't know jack. Okay, they're not in the mix. Okay. I promise you, they don't know what the hell's happening.
Regime change, or would you be okay with an economic deal?
What do you mean an economic deal? Look, Cuba's economy needs to change, and their economy can't change unless their system of government changes.
Hey! He must feel like he's talking to a third grader. Why do I have to explain this to you? You want regime change, or would you just settle for an economic deal? Economic deal? What are you talking about? Their economy can't recover until they have a different form of government. He must think he's talking to an 8-year-old. How can you be this stupid? Oh, because you're a socialist, liberal, mainstream media reporter. Oh, okay, I get it. Marco on Iran is next.
The Iranian people are phenomenal people. They deserve way better than what they have, which is a radical Shia clerical regime that has basically taken that country's wealth and used it not to build roads and bridges, not to build healthcare systems or universities, not to build a better, more prosperous country. They've used the wealth of that country to sponsor terrorism, build rockets, build drones, build missiles, build sea mines. That's what they've done with it, and try to kill people all over the world. And this has to be dealt with. That country was a threat for 47 years. Okay? That regime has been trying to kill and has been killing Americans all over the world for 47 years. We have a president that was not going to allow that to continue unfettered. So when we are done, Iran was already weak. When we are done with them here in the next couple of weeks, they will be weaker than they've been in recent history, and they will not be able to hide behind those weapons to break out and get a nuclear weapon, which would be crazy. For these people to ever get nuclear weapons would be crazy. Look what they're willing to do with the weapons they have now. They hit embassies, they target hotels, they try to kill civilians, they splash out at all their neighbors. Imagine if these radical lunatics had a nuclear weapon to threaten the world with.
Exactly. Why would this be hard for anybody to understand? Now, I just came across this moments ago. See, we set up the audio in advance. I'm chopping it up. I'm emailing it to my producer. So we'll have everything ready to go. We hit the ground running at 4:06. I just came across this, a reporter asking Marco Rubio on the same tarmac outside the USA plane, how do you feel about the Iranian foreign minister accusing the U.S. and Israel of genocide? Rubio's response, the Iranian? He's an expert in genocide. They've killed thousands of people. Every problem in the Middle East is Iran. Hezbollah, Iran. Shia militias destroying and threatening Iraq, Iran. Hamas, Iran. Houthis, Iran. Assad in Syria, Iran. Everywhere you turn, they're behind all of it. Marco's been a pleasant surprise. And I think he's doing a fantastic job as Secretary of State. All right, let's go to Indiana Senator Jim Banks. Says Democrats hate Trump's success.
There's a lot of irony in Senator Blumenthal talking about the truth and not hearing the truth and disputing the truth coming out of these hearings. I won't get into that, but I've sat through all of the same briefings. I've been briefed multiple times in skiffs with the Senate Armed Services Committee. Even this week, this administration has been so transparent. Pentagon leaders, State Department, and leaders from the White House coming to brief the committee and the full Senate over and over again about our activities there. And you nailed it. This has been such an effective operation, and the Democrats hate that. They hate it anytime President Trump is successful. They hate it, even though the generational outcome of this, making the world a much safer place, is real and will be real because we have the best commander in chief that we've had in generations in the White House. So I've sat through the same briefings. Yeah. I came out of those briefings well prepared and equipped with the knowledge that I need to continue to support President Trump in this administration.
Okay, so at the start of the clip, when Indiana Republican U.S. Senator Jim Banks talks about how ironic it is that Democrat Senator Blumenthal out of Connecticut is complaining about the truth. He says, I don't want to get into that right now. Okay, fine. I'll get into it. Dick Blumenthal claimed for many, many years and got elected to U.S. Senate claiming he was a Vietnam veteran. Turns out he wasn't. He lied. So whenever people say, well, who in his right mind would vote for somebody like that? People who just vote for whoever has a D by their name and they don't care if they lie to them. That's who. It's like when Hillary Clinton, with that black church in Selma, Alabama in 2007, the lead up to the 2008 presidential primaries, and she's trying to do a black accent in front of a church full of black folks, and they just loved it. Patronize us some more, Hillary. Patronize us harder. Oh, we love it. A few months later, when they found out who Barack Obama was, oh, wait a minute, there's a black guy running? People would stand up in black churches and show their backs to Hillary. Anyway, just a thought. More coming up on the Doc Washburn Show here on 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. We can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. I'm really looking forward to the forever war with Iran being over. For all y'all who are like, oh, we didn't vote for this. We voted not to start any new forever wars. Well, good thing Trump is in the process of ending one that's been going on since 1979. That drives people crazy. Well, again, Galatians 4:16, have I then become your enemy by telling you the truth? A lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, wait a minute, where's that again? Let me write that down, because that's pretty good right there. Because people get mad at me sometimes when I tell them the truth. I'm like, well, we're supposed to speak the truth in love, but still the truth is the truth. Between Iran and their proxies, they've killed over 1,000 Americans. I think that's enough. So let's go back to U.S. Senator from Indiana, Republican Jim Banks, explaining why Trump had to hit Iran.
And the Democrats will be over there saying, oh, there was no imminent danger. From your perspective, what was the danger had we done nothing?
Well, a nuclear weapon in Iran pointed at America. I mean, that's the bottom line. President Trump was right to get involved here when he did. By the way, President Trump gave the Iranians dozens of notices. He drew a red line and told them like 80 different times, if you don't give up the nuclear program, we're going to bomb the hell out of you. And then he did it. He actually followed through on his promise. And keep that in mind, as today he says 10 days. 10 days that you have 10 days to clear the straits, total surrender, and give up on the nuclear program, or we're going to bomb your energy grid. And guess what? President Trump will follow through on that threat too, and the Iranians know it. That's why they're reacting the way that they are. So the Democrats they hated that President Trump is successful. And Jason, I can't get over the fact that these Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security for 41 days while we're in the middle of a war with the biggest state sponsor of terrorism around the globe. That's how nuts these Democrats are. It's crazier than I thought before I got to the Senate. These Senate Democrats are even crazier than I thought that they were.
Well, I mean, crazy would be one word you can use. I'd use the word evil. But see, he has to... He has to go to work with these guys every day, you know? I don't know, man. I don't know if I could ever be a politician, because they have to be diplomatic sometimes. Well, no, young Tommy's right. You know, I am at times diplomatic myself. But it's one thing to say they're crazy. It's another thing to say they're evil. Again, former two-term Democrat governor, New Jersey, Phil Murphy, said that the most important folks for us are the illegals. Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. It wasn't Phil Murphy. It was Chris Murphy. No wonder I thought he was in the Senate, because Chris Murphy is in the Senate. Democrat U.S. Senator from Connecticut. I appreciate the correction there. You're absolutely correct, young Tommy. Good catch. Chris Murphy, who's in the Senate. Well, no, it's a problem. Keeping your Murphys straight. One's just as bad as the other, but one was the governor of Jersey and the other was, still is, U.S. Senator serving with the proven liar, Dick Blumenthal from Connecticut. And you know what people tend to say if somebody says, I'm from New Jersey? Oh, really? What exit? I'm sorry. No, I need to calm down. No, I know that people are leaving Jersey and moving south to Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and yes, Arkansas. And the ones who come south tend to be conservatives who want to get away from it. So we welcome them with open arms. Well, no, there is a cultural issue because, bless their hearts, people who live up north think a cookout is a barbecue. They have no idea that grilling out is not a barbecue. They don't have any idea that barbecue is a particular kind of meat, which depends upon what part of the South you're in. And it has nothing to do with putting burgers and hot dogs on a grill on the backyard. That's not a barbecue. So we have to, well, no, gently, politely, you need to show them the error of their ways. It's Friday. I'm having fun. All right. Randy Fine is U.S. Representative from Florida who sometimes rubs people the wrong way. But I continue to tell you that if they do another 9/11 on us, people are not going into 2028. Republican voters are not going to be thinking, well, gee, I don't know. Who do I want in the primary? Who do I want to be our presidential nominee in 2028? J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio? No, they're going to be looking for somebody who is hardcore, talking about not just illegal aliens, but Muslim jihadists right now. And Randy Fine is one of those guys. Let's, well, no, I mean, there's a list. Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator out of Alabama. You got Tim Burchett out of Tennessee. You got Brandon Gill out of Texas. You got Andy Ogles out of Tennessee. And they just keep on saying, look, Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. Just not. All right, let's go with Randy Fine, cut one, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And actually, I have an anecdote as well. 35 years ago, when the previous speaker from the Democratic side was here as a member of Congress, I was a 16-year-old page wandering around the floor in a blue blazer and a khaki pair of pants. So it's an interesting moment for me because what he said is, let's fund, I quote, let's fund the important services the American people deserve. Let's talk about important services they don't think they deserve. Over the last 4 years, 20 million illegal immigrants came into this country. And those illegal immigrants have killed 1,400 Americans. Let me give you just a few of their names. Kate Steinle, who was 32 years old in California. Laken Riley, who was 22 years old in Athens, Georgia. Rachel Morin, who was 37 years old in Bel Air, Maryland. Jocelyn Nungery, who was 12 years old in Houston, Texas. Liz Medina, who was 16, also in Texas.
That's serious. Now, a lot of these people are illegal aliens who have already criminal records, rap sheets in their home countries. But a number of them, and of course, Biden's goons are under orders at the border just to let everybody in. But a number of them were people who have broken the law here and were let out with little to no bail, and now you gotta show back up at court. Yeah, forget it. They're not going to do that. And of course, some of the jihadists are part of that too. Anyway, Randy Fine, cut two, please.
But those apparently aren't services that need to be funded. Since the conflict in Iran began, there have been 4 terrorist attacks in 4 separate states by 4 unaffiliated groups. They were working independently. Let's say their names. Those are apparently not important services that the American people need to know. Ryder Harrington, 19. Savitha Shah, 21. Jorge Peterson, 30. And Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw in Virginia. Those are apparently stopping that are not important services the American people deserve.
Again, they don't care, man. just like that Murphy guy up in Connecticut, who said illegals are the most important group that we are concerned about. Aren't you thankful that he let us know? All right, Randy Fine is a Republican U.S. representative out of Florida. I think he's a freshman. I think this is his first term. Let's go with cut 3, please.
While I stood here waiting to speak, the government announced that they've arrested 2 Chinese people in the state of Florida for attempting to put an IED outside of a military base. We're told funding 86% of the Department of Homeland Security is funding all of the Department of Homeland Security. That is not true. And also, as I stood here, I read one other thing, that in New York City, a 4-time deported Honduran illegal alien was charged with murder for shoving an 83-year-old U.S. Air Force veteran onto the subway tracks in New York City. But apparently protecting him is not an important service the American people deserve.
Heartbreaking, isn't it? Maddening, isn't it? Enraging, isn't it? People need to be held accountable, but you can't sue a judge. All you can do is impeach him. Who has the guts to do that? Just asking. Okay, one more clip from Randy Fine. Cut 4, please.
What I have learned in this debate is Democrats care about 3 things: Muslim terrorists, Somali pirates, and illegal immigrants. And what's clear to me, if we want to fund the Department of Homeland Security and get them on board, there's one simple solution. Have all of those TSA agents declare they are illegal immigrants, because then they'll rush to get the money over to them to get them funded. It is not right to keep the government closed. If you want changes in policy, let's have those debates. But the same people who demand these folks not be masked spent years demanding the rest of us get arrested if we weren't willing to wear them. The hypocrisy is stunning, and the American people are not being served. We need the job to get done. We need to get the whole thing funded, and I support the resolution fully.
There you go. There you go. All right, coming up out of the top of the hour news at 5, we're going to have a list of members of the U.S. House in this new caucus called the Sharia-Free America Caucus. And we'll tell you how many of the 4 U.S. representatives from Arkansas are in the Sharia-Free America Caucus. That's coming up out of the 5 o'clock news. More breaking news between now and then on the Doc Washburn Show, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. There was some breaking news earlier today. This is really weird. Young Tommy, have you heard the Secret Service scandal out today? The Daily Mail reporting that former First Lady Jill Biden's Secret Service agent accidentally shot himself in the leg at Philadelphia International Airport Friday morning. You know, I mean, you hate when that happens. And I'm trying to be diplomatic, but you just, I don't know, sometimes you get the impression that maybe the Secret Service isn't sending its best. No, I take you back. I take you back. So when it's Dan Bongino, who I'm honored to call him my friend, Dan Bongino was a Secret Service agent for years. And when Trump was coming into office and announced who his Secret Service director was going to be, somebody asked Bongino what he thought. And he said, well, the president asked me for my advice. Unfortunately, my advice was not heeded. You know, they didn't take my advice. So I wish them well. And this is 2 or 3 months before anybody had any idea that Bongino was going to be tapped to be deputy director of the FBI. He was speaking freely as a private citizen. Now, speaking of the Secret Service, the great Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics, who has just had one scoop after another, says Secret Service Director Sean Curran announced another big promotion last week for Nick Olszewski, one of 2 supervisory agents at the Butler rally where Trump was nearly assassinated. The 2 supervisors were supposed to be providing senior oversight for far more junior agents who were assigned to the big outdoor Trump event in Butler, Pennsylvania, even though most of them had zero experience handling an event of that size at a location that the Secret Service had never used before. So, Agent Olszewski will move from heading the inspections division, which investigates agents' misbehavior and infractions, to becoming an assistant director in charge of the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility, which oversees all agency disciplinary matters. That's one of the 8 assistant directors, considered the director's top lieutenants, who are just one leadership tier down from the director, deputy director, and chief counsel. Nick Menster, the other supervisor, was directly in charge of overseeing inexperienced agent Mayo Perez, who failed to place a security asset on the roof of the AGR building where would-be assassin Thomas Crooks fired off his shots. Menster also was never disciplined over the Butler rally fiasco. Curran instead promoted Menster to a leadership position on Eric and Laura Trump's staff. Many rank-and-file agents are outraged by Director Curran's decision to promote Olszewski once again, while mostly far less senior agents took the fall for the Butler rally. They're viewing the promotion as a way for Curran to further insulate himself from any accusations of wrongdoing during his time as the leader of the Trump campaign detail. At least one agent on the detail filed formal complaints against Director Curran's leadership team of the Trump campaign detail, but internal inspectors cleared all of any wrongdoing, according to sources talking to Real Clear Politics. What agents want to know is whether the investigation that cleared Curran and his leadership team was thorough. Did it include interviewing more than the people accused? Did inspectors look at cell phone texts? Did they polygraph Curran, his deputy, Matt Piant, and others on the leadership team? A source in the Secret Service community says it's par for the agency's course to discipline anyone below a GS-13 level far more severely, while failing to hold more senior supervisors accountable for similar misconduct. The reason? A culture of corruption that's been plaguing the agency for decades. Senior agents have far more ties to the top brass and information they can leak on top leaders if they were to receive harsh discipline. That's what the sources are telling Real Clear Politics. A source in the Secret Service community tells Real Clear Politics, and I quote, "It's more normal than not. It's almost as if it is standard protocol that if you are a GS-14 or higher, that you will be treated with kid gloves. In other words, you'll be allowed to sit at home with pay no matter how long it takes to reach retirement, as opposed to a GS-13 or under. For those more junior agents, it's more likely than not they'll be suspended without pay or terminated for misconduct." Now, my question, is anybody else telling you this? You listen to talk radio, you listen to more than one station. Is anybody else telling you this? Huh? No, I didn't think so. I wonder why that is. Now, we'll have more coming up about the agent who apparently shot himself in the leg while supposedly protecting Jill Biden today. But coming out of the 5 o'clock news, I've got to tell you who is in this anti-Sharia caucus, the Sharia-free American caucus in the U.S. House, and tell you how many of our U.S. representatives from Arkansas, all 4 of them Republicans, are in that caucus. I find it newsworthy. I hope you do. The Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk radio station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. We can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. Representative Keith Self, U.S. Representative Keith Self, proudly serving Texas 3rd Congressional District in the U.S. House, has announced the Sharia-Free America Caucus has just hit 60 members, now representing 25 states. From coast to coast, lawmakers are standing up to defend our Constitution and reject Sharia law in America. So let's see who's represented here. They got, and of course, they're all Republicans. There's not going to be a Democrat come out against Sharia. Minnesota, 1 representative. Arizona, 3. Alaska, 1, because as big as Alaska is, it doesn't have the population to have more than 1 member of the U.S. House. Young Tommy, can you imagine being a congressman representing Alaska in Washington, D.C., and your district is the whole state? I don't know if you've ever seen somebody comparing Alaska to the rest of the U.S., but from one end of Alaska to the other, if you kind of superimpose it on the map, it goes from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It's huge. Anyway, Texas, right next door to Arkansas, there are 14 Republican U.S. representatives from Texas in the Sharia-Free America Caucus. 1 in Alabama, 3 from Georgia, 8 from Florida, 1 from Idaho, 1 from Illinois, 1 from Kansas, 1 from Kentucky, 1 from Maryland, 2 from Missouri, 1 from Mississippi, 1 from Montana, 3 from North Carolina, 1 from Ohio, 1 from Oklahoma, 2 from Pennsylvania, 3 from South Carolina, 2 from Tennessee, 1 from Utah, 3 from Virginia, 1 from West Virginia, and 1 from Wisconsin. The Sharia-Free America Caucus. The Republicans and the U.S. representatives in the U.S. House, Republican U.S. representatives, who are publicly proclaiming we are against Sharia law. Guess how many from Arkansas? Steve Womack? Nope. Rick Crawford? Nope. Bruce Westerman? The great conservative Bruce Westerman? Nope. French Hill? Are you kidding me? No, not a one. None of the U.S. representatives from Arkansas. Now, why do you think that is? Now, I will say this. Tim Burchett out of Tennessee has been very vocal coming out against Sharia law and saying that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization, not compatible with the USA. And his name is not on the list, but I would think it probably will be soon because, again, U.S. Representative Keith Self of Texas, who looks to have been primarily responsible for cobbling this thing together, says, hey, we've just got up to 60 members. So just because somebody's name isn't on here yet doesn't mean that he's not busy and he, oh, gosh, I meant to, yeah, put me on that. That could still happen. We hope it will, because this is very concerning. All right, now, speaking of very concerning, let's talk about this mess today with the Secret Service agent who's supposed to be protecting Jill Biden. You know, when you're the president, you and your family have Secret Service protection even after you leave office. Even if you stole the election from the rightful winner, as Biden did in 2020. So what does the U.S. Daily Mail say? Jill Biden's Secret Service agent shoots himself while accompanying former First Lady through Philadelphia Airport. A Secret Service agent assigned to Jill Biden shot himself in the leg while escorting the former First Lady through Philadelphia Airport. I wonder how close she was when he did that. It probably came as quite a shock, I would think. The agent shot himself in the leg just after 8:30 a.m. Friday while on an assignment to protect Jill Biden. He suffered a non-life-threatening injury after what the federal agency described as a negligent discharge while handling a service weapon. You know, if you're like me and you conceal or open carry, as the case may be, how many times have you had a negligent discharge and shot yourself in the leg? I wouldn't think it would be kind of a normal thing to happen. Anyway, Secret Service spokesman said Biden was not present at the time of the shooting and her movements were not impacted by the incident. The officer is currently being evaluated in nearby hospitals in stable condition. No other injuries were reported. Secret Service spokesman Nate Herring said the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility will be reviewing the facts and circumstances of this incident. We're grateful for our law enforcement and public safety partners who provided medical assistance. The Daily Mail approached Jill Biden's spokesman for comment, who referred them back to the Secret Service. A police cordon was in place outside Terminal C at Philly International Airport by the American Airlines ticketing desk. Officers were seen surrounding a black Chevy Suburban. Well, don't they always? Which is inside the cordon. The vehicle's trunk and front passenger side door were left open. A medic unit responded to the scene, but then left, followed by a police car. Security at Philly International Airport has been chaotic this week in wake of the partial government shutdown that has left Transportation Security Administration, TSA officers working without pay. So that's just, that's quite troubling, if I may use that term in present company. So good old Susan Crabtree, again, over at, she's the national correspondent for Real Clear Politics. She says, and she has been reporting one scoop after another in the Secret Service now, ever since Butler, ever since that rally where Trump almost was killed. She says Secret Service incompetence continues. Jill Biden's Secret Service agent accidentally shot himself while accompanying the former First Lady through the Philadelphia airport. Just amazing. Rich Staropoli, contributor to Fox News, Fox Business Network, and Newsmax, and formerly with the U.S. Secret Service, says Susan Crabtree, the claim will be that the weapon was at fault and that training is to blame. Don't buy it. This speaks to a level of incompetence seen at makeshift ranges in some holler in the Ozarks. Hey, wait a minute, buddy. Don't be slamming the Ozarks. Not on my show. What? What are you saying, young Tommy? Oh, maybe Rich Staropoli was talking about the Ozarks above the state line in Missouri. Okay, all right. I'll allow it. Anyway, he continues, not what the public expects from its Secret Service agents. I mean, this is Susan Crabtree responds. Rich Staropoli says this is outright negligence from Jill Biden, Secret Service agent. Accidental discharges can't happen with the zero-fail Secret Service mission. I mean, now a couple of people have said that he was indisposed, that he was ensconced in a stall in the men's room at Philly International Airport. But again, I'm not trying to be indelicate here, okay? Heaven forbid. I'm not trying to be indelicate. But how many of you conceal carry, and when nature calls, you got to use the John, and you still don't shoot yourself? No, young Tommy. I'm not saying that if you go to the right firing range, they'll give you a demonstration of how to. No, that's not. Please, not on a Friday afternoon. That's just not. That's inappropriate. I mean, if you can't figure it out yourself, how to go to the John without shooting yourself in the leg, then maybe you just don't. How to put this diplomatically? Maybe you're just not cut out to be a Secret Service agent. I mean, I'm mechanically challenged myself, but I don't think this is a case of whether you're mechanically challenged or mechanically inclined. I think it is a question of if you have the IQ to know how to tie your shoes or to know how to, to know how to use the doorknob. Because if you can do either of those things, I would think that you may not be the best shot on the range, but still you should be able to know how to holster your gun without shooting yourself. Oh, good point. Young Tommy, good point. Even when Don Knotts, as Barney Fife, would accidentally shoot his service revolver, theoretically the bullet would hit the floor, not Barney Fife's leg. So even there, I mean, I just think that this needs to be thoroughly investigated because you don't want somebody else, the Secret Service, unintentionally shooting himself or others. Again, going back to the great philosopher, the late, great Barney Fife, you got to nip it in the bud. I know, that was terrible. No. Young Tommy chuckling in there, just trying to be polite, acting like I'm actually funny. Look, I'll be here all week, come early Friday for the No Smoking Show. All right, more breaking news coming up as the Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station. You wouldn't know about that segment. 101.1 The Answer. 101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. So when I tell people what I do for a living, I do a daily radio talk show from 4 to 6 in the afternoon, 101.1, The Answer. They say, what do you talk about? I say, well, whatever's in the news. Oh, you talk about a lot of politics? Yeah, there's a lot of politics in the news, but we talk about some other stuff too. UK Daily Star headline: Tiger Woods arrested after Land Rover crash as cops say he was, quote, impaired behind wheel, unquote. Subheadline: Police say Tiger Woods was driving under the influence after his car was involved in a crash. The golf legend has been arrested and charged with a DUI after refusing a urine test. Well, I mean, okay, a breathalyzer is one thing, but again, far be it from me to be indelicate on the radio, but you roll your Land Rover, because they have embedded photos of a Land Rover on its side in kind of about a half a block down, and police cars and everything. So how do they, not having any law enforcement experience myself, a urine test, do they have to take him back to the station house to, I mean, you don't do that on the sidewalk. I mean, because you got to, I don't know how that works. Anyway, well, maybe the article will tell. No, everybody's got an article. See what it says here. Again, this is the UK Daily Star, because let's face it, Tiger Woods is a worldwide star. Tiger Woods has been arrested and charged with DUI after cops alleged he was impaired behind the wheel. Police say the golf star was driving under the influence after his car was involved in a crash. Sheriff John Butensiak from the Martin County Sheriff's Office in Florida told reporters Woods showed signs of impairment after the incident in Florida. Woods took a breathalyzer test at the scene, which returned negative. Oh. Officers say they suspect he had some kind of drug in his system. Woods refused a urine test, according to investigators. He took a breathalyzer test after his arrest, which returned negative. Is there an echo in here? I thought we just said that. In the same paragraph. Why say it twice? The Star is said to have not sustained any injuries, with the other driver uninjured as well. The driver of the truck is said to have seen the Land Rover trying to overtake him at high speeds. The truck driver said he tried to edge off to the side of the road as the car crashed into him before rolling over on the driver's side door. He crawled out of the car. As police said, he was lethargic on scene, but that we believe was because of what he was intoxicated on. Okay, so if you heard early in the news that Tiger Woods rolled over his Land Rover, did you hear that they're alleging that he actually hit another vehicle? See, that makes it worse. The crash happened at Jupiter Island, town north of Palm Beach. Oh, my goodness. The Brits aren't sending their best. You're not going to believe this sentence in this British newspaper. And this is word for word. The crash happened at Jupiter Island, a town north of Palm Beach, Orlando, Florida, after 2 p.m. on Friday. Well, no, because Palm Beach and Orlando are about an hour and a half away from each other. What do you mean Jupiter Island is a town north of Palm Beach, Orlando? Palm Beach and Orlando, two different places. Orlando is the biggest city in Florida that's not on a beach. It's in the middle of Florida. Palm Beach is way on down southeast Florida before you get to Fort Lauderdale and Miami. No, I'll call out the best of them. It's frustrating. If you don't even know what you're talking about, why bother? Pointing to how the crash occurred on a small 2-lane road, Sheriff John Batunsik said, had there been someone moving in the opposite direction, we would not be having a conversation saying there were no injuries. This could have been a lot worse. He added that Tiger Woods would be released on bail. Oh, soft on crime, soft on crime. President Trump broke his silence on his close friend Tiger Woods following the golf star's crash today, with the president saying he has some difficulty. He broke his silence. He was silent? I mean, reporters asked him about it shortly after the accident, and Trump responded to reporters. What do you mean he broke his silence? Who writes this garbage? Now, we see this stuff all the time. You want to Google something, and all this stuff comes up, all these clickbait things. At 78 years old, Neil Young finally breaks his silence on who the artists were that he just couldn't tolerate. Give me a break. Speaking of reporters, the U.S. president, oh, wait, Trump's the U.S. president? Who knew? Said he heard the golf star had been in a car accident and that he knows Woods has had some difficulty, adding he feels so badly after hearing of the latest crash. Well, thank goodness he broke his silence. That's the important thing here. Trump hailed the 50-year-old as a very close friend of mine, but said he didn't want to talk about the collision. He said, I feel so badly. He's got some difficulty. There was an accident. That's all I know. Well, at least he broke his silence. That's the thing we're going to take from this. Good grief. All right, 501-401-1011 if you want to talk about it. Doc Washburn Show continues on 101.1 The Answer. 101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. You can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. President Trump had some things to say today. And that's always a boon for us because it gives us an opportunity to talk about stuff. I'll tell you what I want to, can we start off with Trump says Biden crushed farmers? Because last I heard, there is some agriculture going on in the state of Arkansas. That's the impression I'm laboring under. All right, here he is.
Before I took office, Sleepy Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress crushed America's farmers with the worst inflation in the history of our country. Prices were going through the roof. So bad. It was so bad what they had done to our country. And by the way, in so many other ways too, borders and everything else. But they crippled the American agriculture industry with brutal restrictions and failed to negotiate even a single new trade deal on your behalf. Not one trade deal was negotiated on your behalf during the Biden administration. And we happen to be the exact opposite. We have so many trade deals, we don't know what the hell to do with them. We need more lawyers.
Okay. We got breaking news on the Secret Service thing with Jill Biden coming up. But first, let me give you two more clips from President Trump. President Trump talks about tax refunds. That's a big deal.
With the help of Republicans in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. Already 45% of filers have taken advantage of our new tax provisions with an average refund so far of almost $5,000, a record. In fact, we passed them and people are just starting to see how important they are. It's amazing what's happened. The numbers are, they're reporting that it's much more money than I thought. I tell you, I call it the great big beautiful bill. Is a great big beautiful bill, and it's especially in terms of your tax refunds and your taxes, because it's the lowest tax we pay. It's the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country. It's also the biggest regulation reduction in the history of our country, which as farmers, you know what that means. It means a lot of good things. We made the small business tax deduction permanent, benefiting 98% of America's farmers and ranchers. And thanks to bonus depreciation, farmers can now deduct 100% of the cost of new tractors and all equipment in the first year.
Okay, now, call me crazy, but that kind of sounds like good news for farmers. That's kind of what it sounds like. You think that maybe Republicans in Arkansas would be talking about that. And maybe they are. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just missed it. That's always possible. So one more thing. Don't you just love it when Trump brings the hammer down on Somalia? It sounds like this.
From Texas to Kansas, from Iowa to Idaho, and from Minnesota. Did I hear Minnesota? How is Minnesota doing? What's going on? What's going on in Minnesota with that crazy governor, that crooked, corrupt governor? How about the attorney general? Do you think he's a dirty cop? You think he's a dirty cop? All right, we'll get Minnesota back. We'll take it back from Somalia. Not you believe? You believe these people come from Somalia? They have nothing. It's not. They come. Somalia is considered the worst country. It's not even a country, like the worst country in the world. The worst. They come over here, and they steal $19 billion. We'll get it straightened out. It's happening. Our vice president is in charge of a new division. It's called the Fraud Division. You know, if we straighten out half the fraud that took place in this country over the years, we'd have not only a balanced budget, we'd have a big surplus. So we're going to get it done.
I will never forget, as long as I live, that Somali woman 2-3 months ago who wound up being arrested for fraud, for being an illegal alien stuff. But she was... in front of, for some reason, a bank of microphones before she got arrested. And again, you got to go back. You got to think about it now. Muhammad, the guy that allegedly started Islam, strongly encouraged first cousins to get married. What does this lead to? Higher infant mortality, more birth defects, but for the people who do live through childhood and grow up to be adults, lower IQ. So these people, not their own fault, are the recipient of 13 centuries of IQs getting lower and lower and lower and lower. So this Somali woman in Minnesota is in front of this bank of microphones saying, well, I'm proud to be Somali. Nice to be in America. And sometimes people say that being Somali is like eating bananas with rice. And of course, that's not true. Less than a minute later, she's like, well, probably the best example of what it's like to be a Somali is eating bananas with rice. And you're like, you just said that's not true, you idiot. Do you have any idea how ridiculous you sound? No, what is sounding ridiculous? What does that mean? Do you realize what you said doesn't make any sense? No, I don't have any idea. What doesn't make sense? What does that mean? Again, when these people, I don't mind sounding like a broken record, when they're taught maniacal hatred of non-Muslims from the cradle, but they're not taught linear reasoning, logic, objective reality, any of that kind of stuff. You can literally ask them, do you realize how ridiculous you sound? Or do you understand that doesn't make any sense? They're like, no, what does that mean? Because they have no idea. Anyway, be that as it may, Susan Crabtree, I tell you, got an update on the Secret Service situation. Here's a scoop from just 8 minutes ago. New details about the agent who shot himself earlier today while accompanying Jill Biden to the Philadelphia airport. Sources are telling Real Clear Politics the agent was apparently rushing and fumbling around after forgetting his cell phone in the SUV. Oh, buddy. The agent was only 1 week on the job with the Jill Biden detail. He was in the SUV behind the one Biden was traveling in. He left to accompany Jill Biden through the airport, but soon realized he had forgotten his cell phone. The agent rushed back to get it, and his pistol fell out of the holster and was lying on the seat. He grabbed his pistol quickly and negligently fired it as he was trying to put it back in the holster. The agent shot his butt cheek. He went to the hospital where he's recovering and is expected to be released later today. Did I mention before that it almost sounds like maybe the Secret Service isn't sending his best? I can't believe. Well, when people post stuff on X, then other people will respond. They'll have comments. Even young Tommy knows this. I can't believe the first response is the guy saying, this is fine. Just leave him on the Biden's detail. Everybody has to start somewhere. Buddy. Yeah, I see stuff like that. That makes me laugh. I show it to my wife. She laughs. And I'm like, and just think of it. This is free. You get funny stuff every day for free. Now, I pay a few bucks every month to get the blue check to be verified, because that way, well, it helps me when I show prep. When I come across stuff, I got to talk about this on the show, I get to save it in a folder and I have different names for different topics, stuff to talk about. And so that really comes in handy. But there is so much going on, and we keep on hearing that people are going to be held accountable for Russiagate in this federal grand jury down in Fort Pierce, Florida. And, you know, I tell you stuff from time to time, not because I'm holding out hope, not because I'm trying to get your hopes up, but just because I feel like it's my duty to let you know what's being reported. Because on a regular basis, we tell you stuff that's out there that that you're not hearing about anywhere else. That's pretty good. New York Times reporting Idaho criminalized using bathrooms, locker rooms, or changing rooms that do not correspond to a person's sex at birth, including in private businesses. Well, no. Actually, that don't even correspond to a person's sex right now, because you can't change your sex from whatever it was at birth. So here's the deal. I tried to explain this to a teenager one time who insisted that she was a boy. From conception, you either have male DNA or female DNA in every cell of your body. And you can't change that. And later, I got to thinking, I wonder if this teenager even had any idea what DNA is. Because I don't know what they teach nowadays in public schools. Oh, Fox News had this breaking news a little bit ago. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison caught meeting with Somali fraud suspects already under FBI investigation. Reports say it was tied to campaign donations and promises to get the money flowing again. Oh, my goodness. Well, it's just, didn't Trump say earlier when he's talking about Somali, how corrupt that attorney general of Minnesota was? I think he did. Reuters says Gulf states are telling the U.S. ending the war is not enough. Iran's capabilities must be degraded. You know, I think Trump may be aware of that already. Maybe. All right. You're not going to believe what happened on Fox and Friends this morning with the Attorney General of the U.S., Pam Bondi, and the insistence of the folks on Fox and Friends to ignore what she was saying. It's incredible. That's coming up as the Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi was on Fox and Friends this morning. And it's been my experience that when an interview guest makes a point, nobody picks up on it, and she repeats the point, maybe she wants the people interviewing her to ask her about it. So let's roll that, see what you think.
Are there more of these people that were naturalized citizens? They're going to be denaturalized.
There are a lot of them. And just to put it in perspective, under the 4 years when President Biden was in office, he moved to denaturalize 24 people. 4 years. Under President Trump, already 22 within a year. And these are bad people. They were sent to prison under Trump 45. Bad people, arms smuggling, millions of dollars of healthcare fraud. We're looking at another one right now. We're going after them constantly. Then under Joe Biden, they get out, they serve their sentences. He lets these criminals, he let them stay in our country. No longer under Donald Trump. We're going to have a safe country. We're going to have an honest country. And we're moving to denaturalize them as fast as we can and get them out of our country.
Okay, my mistake. No, that's still a good clip. And it's important that we're denaturalizing bad people and getting them out of our country. But it was actually the other Pam Bondi clip, and this is completely my fault. It's not young Tommy's fault. No, I'd blame him if I could. But I got to take the rap for this one. I'm not gonna throw my young producer under the bus when I gave him the wrong instructions. Okay. We got a different clip of Pam Bondi trying to make a case, trying to make a point, and Brian Kilmeade just ignoring her. And it goes something like this.
Pending case, so I can't say a lot about it. What I can say, of course, is he is charged with being a narco-terrorist, and his wife is just as bad, if not worse. Remember, she was Hugo Chavez's lawyer. Maduro was his bus driver. They're horrible. I feel they're convicted of, should be convicted of many crimes involving drugs, guns. And I can say New York is not the only jurisdiction that we're looking at.
Are you looking for other Venezuelan officials? Because you've indicted more of them even before you guys got there, including the defense minister who was just dismissed. Are you going to go grab some more?
Yeah, Brian, I can't talk about that. But yes, we have many unindicted co-conspirators, not only in New York, but we're looking at other jurisdictions as well. But I can't discuss Cuba either. But you know, President Trump is looking at all this. This is about keeping our world safe, and that's what he is committed to doing.
She said it twice. She said it a different way the second time, trying to get Brian Kilmeade's attention. He's like, no, I want to ask about this because I learned everything I know from Sean Hannity, and the most important thing is to ignore what your guest is saying. This is not the only venue for prosecution. If you're looking at other locations. Well, so do you have some co-conspirators? Okay, yeah, but what I'm saying is that we could be looking at other venues for prosecuting Maduro. What about Cuba? I can't talk about that. You knucklehead. How come you're not paying attention to what I'm saying? I'm handing it. Brian, kill me. Come on, buddy. I'm handing you this on a silver platter. I'm trying to break some news here. This is kind of a bombshell, kind of a blockbuster that nobody knows about. But everybody always gives me a hard time because I'm on Fox News all the time. But I like you guys, and I'm trying to do you a solid here. And yet you just won't take it. I don't understand. All right, now. Hang on a second. Speaking of Iran, there is, big news now. The Houthis are threatening to get into this. Mike Duranimated over there on X says the Houthis say their fingers are on the trigger. If any of the following 3 red lines are crossed, they're ready to join in the fight on the side of Iran. 3 red lines. Number 1, if any additional countries join the U.S.-Israel coalition, this is a direct threat aimed at Saudi Arabia and the UAE, urging them to stay out of the conflict. Number 2, if the U.S.-Israel coalition uses the Red Sea to launch attacks against Iran or any Muslim country, well, we're not attacking other Muslim countries. That's Iran doing that. This means the Houthis will not allow U.S. or Israeli warships, aircraft carriers, or military assets to operate from, transit through, or use the Red Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, as a base or route for strikes on Iran. Number 3, if the war against Iran persists or escalates, in other words, they reserve the right to step in militarily when it suits them. This is their most flexible trigger. It gives them room to decide later according to developments on the ground. Okay, so here's the deal. Mike Duranimated has an embedded video here from the official spokesman for the Houthis. I don't know if their official spokesman or the guy in charge or whatever, but I know one thing. If they know how to take out the Ayatollah and 45 or 50 of the top command of Iran with a missile dropping out of a clear blue sky on a Saturday morning, what are the odds they can take this guy and everybody supporting him out? Why not just go ahead and head it off the pass? Just be proactive and just send this guy to Allah and the 72 virgins. Just a thought. We're just thinking out loud here. We're celebrating and cheering on America, and the Houthis need to be turned into, well, anyway. I'm Doc Washburn, the great Dave Ellswick, up Monday morning at 7:06. We'll see you Monday 4:06, God willing, right here, 101.1, The Answer.